Chapter 1 Saints and Warrior Women of the Celts. Folklore and Legend. Where there's a cow there's a woman, and where there's a woman there's mischief. St. Columba. When the Romans invaded what was to become Scotland, they had to contend with a ferocious enemy who fought with courage and skill and a mastery of guerrilla tactics that caused the legions many problems. Although they won a significant victory at Mons Graupius in 83 AD, the Romans could not conquer this northern land and eventually withdrew behind Hadrian's Wall. Few eyewitness accounts relate the type of persons the Romans encountered in the glens and straths. But when Ammianus Marcellinus, a Roman of the 4th century AD, met the Gauls, a Celtic people similar to the Picts of Scotland, he said that they were terrible from the sternness of their eyes, very quarrelsome, and of great pride and insolence. It is a description that may be apt to many Scots today. Yet, while the Romans considered that Celtic men were dangerous opponents, they seemed to hold their women in even greater awe. Marcellinus claimed that a whole troop of foreigners would not be able to withstand a single Gaul if he called his wife to his assistance. It seemed that these women were very strong, especially when swelling their neck, gnashing their teeth, and brandishing their sallow arms of enormous size. She begins to strike blows with kicks. As the Romans eventually defeated the Gauls, but failed to defeat the Picts, it is conceivable that the latter were even more formidable. The morals of the Pictish women, at least, seem to have scandalized the visitors, for according to Roman accounts, they were free to make love with whomsoever they wished. Marriage among the Celts was easy, and divorce so simple that weddings may have been an annual event. However, there were also legal concubines, a second wife who lived beside the first or principal wife. The law permitted a jealous principal wife to beat the concubine, which must have created some uneasy relationships. Yet concubinage appears to have been quite a common practice, despite the second wife's title of adulteric, the adulteress. There were as many as 10 different forms of marriage in the Celtic world, from a conveniently casual sexual bond to permanent union. An echo of these arrangements was apparent as late as the 18th century, when handfasting, a form of trial marriage, was common in Scotland, despite the disapproval of the Kirk. There is an interesting legend that a Pictish woman made love to the father of Pontius Pilate while he was on a mission north of the Roman frontier. Between them they created the young Pilate, who later became governor of Jerusalem. Although the story is probably apocryphal, it does illustrate the idea of sexual freedom that Scots women enjoyed. But who would marry one of these dominant, ferocious women? Many, for Celtic women echoed society. Warfare and quarrelling were major pleasures, so a docile, humble wife would have been no fun, no challenge. A woman of might and assertion was an equal partner in life's adventures. When not fighting or loving, Celtic women took pride in their appearance. The Celtic women known to the Romans seem to have lived short lives, with many dying in their early 20s. But they made the most of the time that they had. They married young, at about 12 years old, and apparently flirted outrageously. They used the dye from berries to tint their eyebrows and paint their lips, and also rouged their cheeks. They seem to have been immensely proud of their braided hair, and kept their combs in personal bags. Celtic women wore plaid skirts and gold or silver anklets, necklaces and bracelets. They had rings on their fingers and in their ears, and thrust decorated pins through their hair. The noble women wore elaborate torques around their neck and decorated the brooches that held their clothes. They even washed in warm water, a habit that many of their urban descendants forgot, and were very careful of their fingernails. It is possible that Celtic women wore sandals so they could display the rings in their toes. Indeed, Celtic women were so vain of their appearance that the law demanded a fine from anyone who insulted their looks, clothes, or makeup. Celtic law also forbade anybody from lying about a woman's reputation or insulting her. If her husband had slept with another woman, a Celtic wife could legally kill her love rival, provided she committed the deed in hot blood. The wife was allowed 3 days between discovering the adultery and dispatching the culprit. After that, her anger was supposed to have abated. There does not seem to be anything written about subsequent relations with her husband. Presumably, they kissed and made up once she had proved her love.